So, Happy New Year, everyone. It's the first session since after the new year. So, how's everyone doing? Does anybody have New Year's resolutions and things like that? No? Okay. I won't ask you why, I won't ask you why not, but it is common, right? To have some New Year's resolution to start the new year with some improvement or some direction to help us improve ourselves. And I just led a retreat in Vancouver, which was intensive retreat, and it had a theme. It was called Beginning Anew. So it was a theme of starting fresh. And that term, beginning anew, many years ago when we came up with the name, I think it was inspired by Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh. And the way he describes what's traditionally translated as repentance and reform. In the Chinese Buddhist tradition, the term 忏悔法缘, a literal translation is repentance and reform, or vowing, generating aspirations. Those words sound kind of heavy and may carry different connotations. Repentance. Repentance meaning to repent or to feel a kind of shame or even uh, sorrow, more of a shame. And that word is also very heavy and carries many connotations. Um, but it just means to reflect on all the things we've done in the past, the recent past, whether it's the past year or maybe it was many years past. We can use a practice of repentance to reflect on those things and then to remind ourselves that they were harmful or they weren't skillful behaviors or skillful actions, and that they have consequences that we have to accept. However, that we can reform or decide not to do those things, not to engage in those behaviors, in those habits that create so much trouble. So it's a practice of reflection or introspection on our past and to make vows or aspirations for the future. You could say it's the Buddhist New Year's resolution, but that you don't have to wait until New Year's to do it. You can do it all the time. You can do it every day. But those words again, repentance, reform, um, they and shame, they can give us a sense that we should feel bad about ourselves. As if we should feel guilty or bad about ourselves. That's a connotation with some of those words. So Thich Nhat Hanh uses the word beginning anew, the phrase beginning anew, which is the same practice, just reflecting on our actions and vowing to change. And in the Buddhist practice of doing this, we also incorporate bows or prostrations, which is bowing from standing up all the way slowly to the floor, and then from the floor, even waiting there for a little bit to reflect on what we want to reflect, and then gradually and slowly coming back up and doing this prostration or this full bow to the floor repeatedly within a period of time. Could be short, could be a few minutes, or it could be 20 minutes or even a half an hour. And some people could do it for longer. And this practice of beginning anew, of reflecting and um, making vows or aspirations is very powerful. In the Buddhist tradition, in some monastic communities, they would do this at the end of the year, and they would do it together as a group. Um, and we did this on retreat in Vancouver. They just did it for a brief period, but everyone together was bowing, prostrating at their own speed, and reflecting on their own previous year and reflecting on themselves, what they want to change, and then, of course, finishing with making a vow or aspiration to change. And this is really a powerful practice because for some of us, we we carry the burden of guilt, or we carry the burden of feeling that we've done wrong, and we feel bad about ourselves as if we're stained, or we're tarnished somehow. And the thought of what we've done repeatedly comes up into our mind and makes it difficult to feel at ease. And it can make it difficult for some people to function, um, because that thought or that guilt, that pattern of guilty thinking is so powerful, it can take our minds off of what we're doing. And for some people, it can make them sick. It can make them ill because they feel so bad about what they've done. Actually makes me think of a movie. I don't know if you folks have seen it. I believe the name is called The Mechanic. Is it called The Mechanic? What's the actor who played the main character again? I forget their name.
Christian Bale.
Ah, yeah, Christian Bale. And he plays the character of a person. Well, I don't want to ruin I don't want to ruin it if you're interested in seeing it. But he plays a character who is tormented by guilt. And because of that, it weighs so heavy on his mind or on his body that he develops all these problems, kind of psychosis, sees things and hears things. And in the end, without revealing what happens, you could say he practices repentance, or he practices beginning anew, and it frees him from his guilt and frees him from his illness. So, um, if you're interested, you can watch it. I thought it was a very good movie. But you may experience this yourself in some way, and you don't need a movie to know what it's like. So whether it's a very heavy guilt, or whether it's just feeling that we've wanted to make a change for so long, but we find that we can't, or we haven't been able to. Like we want to do something healthy for ourselves, want to have a new routine, or we want to stick with the practice, meditate every day, or whatever it is. And we find it's really difficult to do that. Sometimes it's actually just the plan that we've set out for ourselves may be really unrealistic and a little bit over the top. And we try to push ourselves to do way too much, way beyond what we're capable of. So we inevitably fail. But sometimes there's also other habitual tendencies that get in our way. So it could be that tendency of doing too much and trying too hard that actually becomes our obstacle. Now, it's not that we're not trying. We try too hard. We do way too much. That's an obstacle because it's not sustainable. For other folks, they end up procrastinating, and because there's a fear of failure before even starting. And the fear of failure is really wrapped up in um, a fear of tarnishing our self-image. So procrastination is really connected to a heavy sense of self-attachment, and wanting to not wanting to fail, not wanting to seem like a failure to ourselves or to others. And there could be all different kinds of mental obstacles where actually the practice of beginning anew can help us see those obstacles and actually let them go. We take time to intentionally reflect on the obstacle, whether it's a past behavior or an ongoing habit, and to reflect on it and see it and know that, wow, this attitude of trying too hard is hurting me, is hurting others. So I can let it go. I don't need to do this. And sometimes it could be some form of anger or resentment towards a person or even towards the whole world that keeps us from moving forward. So the practice of beginning anew is where we intentionally bring up some of these obstructive ways of thinking, um, and seeing so that we can become aware of them, let them go, and make a vow. And it's more likely that we'll be able to move forward with our vow because we're not so bogged down by the guilt, resentment, whatever it is. And we don't just need to make it once, or we don't have to limit ourselves to making a vow just once. We can do it every day. So some people like to, before sitting meditation, renew their vow. Every day, renew their vow um, to do whatever it is they set out to do. So one vow could be something as simple as I vow to be a kinder person. I vow to be less judgmental, less hateful, and to be a kinder person, to try to understand others. And we can take a few moments to bring that to mind, do our prostrations before we do sitting meditation, or even before you go out the door, and then continue the day. And what's very powerful about that is it helps us to have an even stronger awareness of these patterns as they arise, so that we can see them and not be pushed by them to react habitually to our day-to-day challenges. So the practice of beginning anew, repentance, making vows is very powerful, and I encourage everyone to do it. So we did have a topic, and it's a great topic actually, because I think it goes along well with the theme of the new year, which is the topic is generally, how do we know that we're living a good life? And this is as broad as you can get. But the question, that topic, where did it come from? So the person writes they were feeling blue around the New Year's and realized that they just uh, felt a kind of emptiness within themselves or a sense of lacking. And they wrote, well, if we eventually die and all these external markers of success, such as titles and social status or wealth, actually can't define who we are, they can't prove that our lives are meaningful, what does a good life look like? We learn how to sustain ourselves. We try to follow our hearts. We learn how to respect boundaries with others. We learn to be mindful from moment to moment. But then what? Um, the person was actually bringing up a few of the topics that we had talked about in the past, practicing all these things, but then what? And they continue. So perhaps this question comes from my New Year's blues. I feel another year older. However, there's still so much to learn, and learning never ends. And I value being diligent, but I find myself wondering whether there will be an end to all this learning. And I asked them further in an email to clarify, and they said that it was a feeling that there's just not enough time to learn everything, not enough time to learn what they want to learn or do what they want to do. And compared to others, and that was a big part of this, compared to others, they saw other people doing other things, becoming successful, succeeding, and seemingly succeeding in what they set out to do. And this person felt, like they were falling behind. you know, and they reflected on the fact that, of course, what they saw this in social media, in the people they follow or the friends that they have. The more they were looking through social media at this new year, oh, what is everyone doing? Everyone's, doing well, succeeding, um, that they felt worse about themselves and kind of lacking and wondering, when will I get there? And this is the kind of main attitude behind all of these words is I'm not happy yet. I'm not fulfilled yet. When will I get there? When will I be happy? When will I be fulfilled? When can I achieve these goals and then finally be content? That's the kind of main attitude behind it. I wonder, have you ever felt this way? Yeah, I think probably all of us, including myself, at some point in our lives have felt, like we're either behind or not quite fulfilled, whether it's we have yet to establish ourselves in a career or have yet to establish a relationship, whether it's an intimate partnership or even friendships. We may feel our interpersonal relationships are lacking. We just don't seem to have what other people have. What else? Career, relationships, health. Maybe we're just not happy because we don't feel we yet have the health and well-being that we want to have or that we once had. Maybe we want to lose weight. Maybe we want to gain weight, gain muscle, gain endurance, or even get rid of an illness. And there's so many things about our health that all of us, um, issues that all of us have in some way. We want it to be better, and we don't have the better situation yet. So we don't feel fulfilled. We don't feel content. And there can be countless things. Diet, and as the person mentioned here, learning something. We haven't learned yet what we really want to learn. And because of that, we don't feel quite content and we feel empty, especially when we see other people doing all these things. And when we see what seems like success. And they ask, when will the ending, when when will I reach the end? When will I ultimately reach the goal and be happy? So it's a great question. And I think it applies to this time around New Year's time. Because in making our New Year's resolutions and making our vows and aspirations, actually, some people, when they do that, they actually strengthen their sense of lacking, which I don't know. Some of you said you don't make resolutions. I don't know if that's why, but some people choose not to because, well, they feel every day they try to do better anyway. Um, but whether it's the person who makes the resolution or not, if we don't have the right attitude, we can actually um, make our sense of lacking stronger because we're just not there yet. We think, oh, here's this goal. I have to reach this goal this year. I have to do this. If I don't do this, it's too many failures already. So let me get going. And we feel that we haven't gotten there yet. So we're not good enough, or we can't be at ease or at peace until we've gotten there. I don't know if anyone has had tried to lose weight. So you try to lose weight, you set this goal, and it's maybe exciting, or, we have a lot of fire, a lot of motivation in the beginning. And we look at the scale after one day, it's just like, okay, it hasn't moved yet. All right, I got to be patient. Let me check tomorrow. Check the second day. Maybe it's moved like zero point 0.1 pounds up. We're like, wait a second. I I thought I was eating less. I'm using this tracker app. I'm definitely eating less. This is like 500 calories less than usual. Okay. Let me check tomorrow. Check the next day. Again, another zero point 0.1 up. And eventually we check every day, day after day. It goes up, it goes down. Even when it goes down and consistently goes down, we may have this feeling of just not being there yet. And because we're not there yet, we don't feel good. We can't feel at peace. And some folks, when they even step on the scale, they feel a lot of anxiety because they're really worried about if it went up. Um, there can be a lot of anxiety around reaching goals, setting goals and reaching goals. Why does that happen? Why can there be so much anxiety wrapped around not being where we want to be? And it's because we really want to be there. We want to be at that goal, and our sense of self is so much wrapped around success and failure. So if we fail, it's connected to me. I failed. If we succeed, it's also connected to me. It's like, haha, I succeeded. And success and failure, it's not just about the pounds, it's often about our sense of self. And we may think, I've been unable to lose weight or unable to reach this goal for so many years. Am I just like an incapable person? Is it just that I can't do these certain things, or I'm just not qualified for something? We doubt ourselves based on these changing conditions. We connect it, we wrap the self around that. And interestingly, to the opposite effect, when we succeed, we can also have a bloated sense of self. So we feel so good about ourselves when something goes well. And we think, yeah, that was me. I did that. I made the scale go down. It was all about me and my ability to control myself or whatever the outcome. I succeeded in this career. I worked so hard. And it was all about the hard work that I put into it. We can still wrap ourself around it and identify with the success and feel this kind of arrogance. So it's interesting in these endeavors that we have, even if they're very wholesome, very virtuous endeavors, there can be so much vexation, so much um, trouble in our mind because of how we connect ourselves to the success and to the failure. Um, and especially with the comparison to others. So this person, they talked about feeling empty or feeling lacking because of comparison, comparing their success or failure to other people, which in some sense it can be useful if we're in a certain field to know what other people are doing in order to excel in the field, right? We can't not know. How does someone become successful as a teacher, as a coach, as whatever, musician? We need to look at what other people are doing, right? Otherwise, we have to like start from zero and start from no information, just do everything ourselves. We need to look at what people are doing to get some knowledge and skills and even inspiration. So it can be really inspiring to look at other people, and even if it's, what they post on social media and say, wow, look at what they did. That's amazing. And we try to learn how they did it. How did they get where they are? Or how did they succeed in their endeavor? In the Buddhist tradition, we also have this, right? We have lots of stories of practitioners over the ages, right? Especially in the Chan Zen tradition, there are volumes of all these different great teachers or great practitioners and the path of practice that they went through. All these stories serve to inspire us and even educate us on the path of practice. But it can be a problem when we compare ourselves to them and wish that we were there. And that's when we really start to suffer. We compare ourselves to somebody else. We have this vision or this story of how they must be so happy, how they must be so content, and we just wish we were there. And we look at ourselves, we look at them, we look at ourselves again, and we may feel bad, may feel lacking. That kind of comparison is such a huge source of suffering. On the one hand, learning from others, that's really useful, but comparing others to us, it's just a recipe for suffering because it really is like comparing apples to oranges. Even though we're all people, and even if we're in the same field as someone else that we're observing or following, they have totally different conditions than what we have, right? They have a totally different set of conditions. They have a different body. Everyone has a different body. Even though we're all human, we have a different body, different genetics. We have a different environment, which feeds our body or damages our body. We have different opportunities than other people. Some people were educated on something specific a long time before we were, and some people had close mentoring and tutoring. So their whole process of learning and development is different than ours. And all these different conditions that are really countless. We can't even speak about all of them. All the conditions that all of us have are different. So to compare one person to somebody else is really, it doesn't make any sense because all of us are starting from a different place with a different set of conditions, and each one of our processes is different with almost 99% of it out of our control, and a tiny percentage of the conditions are under our control. Right? So if we endeavor in our Buddhist practice, for some of us, we have the benefit of having started when we were very young. Maybe some of us were born into families that are Buddhist. So we grew up hearing the Dharma, right? And then some of us started seriously practicing at an earlier age before we developed a lot of deep habits. So we started really working on ourselves and reflecting on ourselves much earlier. Some of us had the fortune of having a teacher close to us, a teacher and a community. Um, and some of us didn't have those conditions. Some of us started later. Some of us didn't really have a teacher or a community. We just had books. So although you have two people practicing Buddhism, it may be Zen or Chan, and it may even be in the same room, in the same group. All of us here tonight have a totally different path and totally different set of conditions. If we compare ourselves to somebody else and say, oh, wow, look at their practice. It's so good. I wish I was like them. If I was like them, if I had their peace and their what looks like freedom, I would be all set. I will be happy. But when we do that, we feel terrible. We feel like we're behind, or feel like we're missing out, and we feel like we're not good enough. But what's more of a healthier, wiser attitude? Um, I'll share a bit first, and I'd like to hear from everyone to hear what you think. But we talked about it a few sessions ago when we were talking about perfection, imperfection and perfection, and the teaching of the Sutra of Complete Enlightenment or the Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment. Do you remember that session? The uh, the main the main message of that session is that we can be free right now, or we could be free, content right now if we realize that everything is fine or everything is perfect as it is. And that immediately may make us wonder, well, what does that mean? What does the sutra mean that everything is perfect and pure and fine right now as it is? Does that mean we shouldn't improve ourselves or we shouldn't work on these problems that society is facing? We shouldn't try to end wars or we shouldn't try to stop injustice? But that's not what it means. It means that if we can let go of all of the comparisons and the judgments and all of the thinking or all of the attachment to our thoughts and thinking of things being better in the future and things just aren't good enough now. I can't be happy now. I'll only be happy in the future. I'm so full of vexation now. I can only be free in the future. If we let go of all of that kind of thinking, we can experience happiness now and experience freedom now. Because as the sutra says, our mind is actually perfect and pure. It's not permanently damaged or soiled by all the habits and things that we have. All of those habits, the bad habits that we have, or the problematic habits that make us suffer, all of that is temporary. All of that is just temporary phenomena, kind of like the dust on a mirror, where yeah, the appears dirty. When it's dusty and dirty, it's not going to function well. It's like when our mind is clouded and when we're upset and troubled by something, it's obviously disturbing and uncomfortable, and we're not going to function well. But all of that is temporary. The actual true nature of our mind is not damaged by any of that. Just like the mirror is not damaged by any of the filth or the stuff we throw on it. The mirror is still perfect um, unscathed. So that teaching is just reminding us to have this faith and confidence in ourselves, that we can actually be happy and free in the moment if we let go of all of that seeking or longing for happiness in the future, which is really the emphasis of the sudden teaching of Zen, the Duan Wu Famen, or the sudden enlightenment of Zen, which is not just something the Zen or Chan school invented, but it's just the Mahayana teaching that all of us have this potential for a free and pure mind. It's just temporarily soiled or temporarily um, disrupted by clinging to our expectations, many of them happiness in the future. Some of us really deeply believe that we can't put our minds at ease until we have some certain condition. It's interesting. I'll share a personal example where we just moved up here to the Hudson Valley, and we're renting this place, and it's a beautiful house, the beautiful property. I feel really fortunate and blessed to be in a place with more nature and forests and fresh air, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. However, we realized that instead of renting forever, we should buy a house so that instead of just paying money to a landlord, we can invest in the house. So eventually, we don't have to pay anyone. We just have it, right? We have this house, and then someday, when we have the mortgage paid off, we won't have to pay anyone and it'll just be ours. We don't have to work as much, right? So we're planning for the future by getting this house, having it be ours. And I found within myself that in the process of looking for a house, I can sometimes forget just to enjoy and appreciate this moment and just be happy looking for a house, yet not having found a house. You know, we have a desire to find this house, to have a happy future, you know, to invest and live in a way which is somewhat more strategic than the way we've been living now. So it's a kind of desire, and we have to do something about it. But it's so easy to start to think, oh, if we just had this house, this looks like a great house. If we had that house, and then we'd be set. You know, and this is a very luxurious position to be in, to even have a home, you know, for us to have a home is a kind of luxury and fortune. But it's easy to forget when we want something more or want something else, want something better. Is it a problem to want to get more or to have something better? Not necessarily. You know, as lay people, we we um, we have properties of our own, we have these possessions of our own, and we try to improve and get better things, right? To have a better quality of life. Monastics, are monastics totally free from this need to improve and even buy things? Well, if you look at a monastic community, maybe they start with a small monastery, but they realize actually this place is too small. There's too many people coming here. We need a bigger place, right? So even monastics who don't own personal property, they need to work hard to develop and improve and get a bigger monastery, build a bigger place. Um, so it's not a problem in itself to improve, to seek improvement and to do better. But once we get caught up in the mindset that I can't be happy unless I have that future goal or that future condition, then we're trapped. And then we don't feel free. We don't feel perfect. We don't feel that things are perfect at all. And we can get caught in a sense of lacking and that sense of things not being good enough and waiting for happiness in the future. So the sutra reminds us that we can actually be content and fulfilled in the present with whatever conditions we're faced with. Living conditions, career condition, relationship condition, health condition, because none of us are going to be perfectly healthy, wealthy, or in an ideal situation. And, you know, some of us are facing a lot of hardship, which is really difficult. You know, a lot of financial or health hardships. It's not easy to face it. But what the practice reminds us is that even in the face of terrible hardship, you know, really terrible, painful, uncomfortable hardship, we can cultivate a mind that's freer, um, more at ease, and that recognizes that things are perfect in a sense that things are the way they are for a reason, for many reasons, and because of many causes and conditions. So the sudden approach of Zen is just that if we can see our attachment to happiness in the future and let go of it, we can be free now. We can be content now. It's that simple. Not easy, but it's that simple. And we could say that's living a good life. To circle around to the topic, the name of today's discussion, living a good life is, according to Buddhist practice, living um, with freedom in the face of any kind of condition, to be at peace and also to be attempting to improve or attempting to um, uh, make things better. So there's no conflict. There's no conflict of trying to make improvements, which is a kind of desire if we have wisdom, if we don't get caught up in the desire for the future happiness. Um, but the sudden approach is often not tangible and difficult to approach. And that's why the Buddhist teachings also have things like the Eightfold Noble Path, which spell everything out. What is a good life? According to Buddhist practice, it's the Eightfold Noble Path. It's living a life or living a path that is not good in a terms of morally good or bad sense, but good in terms of wisdom. The Eightfold Noble Path, briefly, just to review, what is it? Right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right diligence, right mindfulness, right concentration. Um, the Eightfold Noble Path really spells out how to live a good life from thought, speech, action, way of life, and also perspective. How to see the world in a way that frees us from so much of this sense of lack, this sense of um, feeling things aren't good enough, feeling we can't be content. Um, the earlier teachings or the foundational teachings have the Eightfold Noble Path. The Mahayana has the six paramitas, right? Which is just a um, different formulation, but basically the same path. Six paramitas are what? Generosity, precepts, forbearance, diligence again, samadhi or stability, concentration, stability, and wisdom. It's all the same things, but just packaged differently, slightly different emphasis. So that's what I had to share for today. Hope it wasn't too long, but just wanted to really reflect on this question of a sense of lack, sense of comparison to others, and how to be free from that, how to really feel fulfillment even when we're not done. We're not done learning, we're not done doing, but we can still feel fulfillment. We're still suffering or we're still healing our bodies, but we can feel contentment in the process. So after hearing that, what do you folks think? Any reflections on those thoughts or any questions or even challenges to that?
Yeah, thank you, David. That was wonderful. Just one kind of, maybe it's a reflection kind of back towards you. But would you say that when we reflect on this idea of what a good life is there a difference between, we're talking about being free, and if there's an emphasis on free, it almost seems like that more points to maybe the earlier schools of Buddhism versus the Mahayana view, a consideration towards other sentient beings and our ability. I mean, Shifu even has a statement of, something like the, I think it translates something like the value of our life can be found in the service of others. And so just kind of maybe if you could reflect on that for us, please.
Yeah, that's a great point. The Bodhisattva spirit, that practice is not for our only our freedom, but for everyone's freedom, freedom from suffering and distress and from this feeling of lacking. So, um, we talked about New Year's resolutions or New Year's aspirations and just aspirations in general. The what you're talking about in the Mahayana, which is Zen. Zen is Mahayana Buddhism, is to make that kind of aspiration every day that, we practice not just for our well-being, but for everyone's. But I think one thing that we can we can from what I've observed and in my see in myself, if we sometimes have an aspiration to help others and to do things for others or to give to others, in a way that actually makes us unhealthy. This over giving or giving beyond our capacity to the point of really starting to drain ourselves and become sicker or become even resentful to the people that we want to help. So, the Bodhisattva path encourages us to give in many different ways and to be of service to others. But I also think it's really important to do that in a way that's it's not harming ourselves in order for us to really consistently practice this path or consistently serve to the point where even if we find ourselves so busy and so full of obligation already, just as a partner to someone, a parent to someone, or many kids, or whatever role you have, if you already feel so full that to think about being of service in another way is just, you can't even think about it because your plate is so full that we don't have to do something special to be this bodhisattva or to be this compassionate person who can help others feel free or be free. Just by being more free ourselves, we naturally help other people. You know? It's like we don't necessarily have to do all this stuff. Oh, I have to join this organization. I have to sign this petition. I have to do this and that and whatever, some formal activism in order to help all people. Just in the way we interact with people or even the way we are can help other people feel safer and feel freer. So, this I think it's important to reflect on that. When we work on ourselves, we benefit others. As long as we have the mindset to benefit everyone, um, we'll act in ways which consider other people's benefit, just naturally. So for some of us, we have a full plate. We don't need to do or take on some big project. We just do what we need to do with this greater freedom and compassionate attitude. For those of us who are maybe not so busy, very free and wondering what to do with ourselves. We have so much free time. We can we can look for ways to be of service, more concrete ways to serve others and help others. And that's also great. So I think it's all about balance. Welcome to the group.
Um, Thank you. Hi, everyone. Um, I really enjoyed this talk, and I want to share some reflection. Um, a lot of what you said, including doing too much, trying too hard, perfectionism, I can see how it troubled me a lot. And the part when you mentioned about the looking at others, the way it just clicked to me is when you're looking at others, what others are doing, if it's coming from a place out of curiosity to learn, then what you see is inspiration. But if you're coming from a place of judging either yourself or that other person, then it became very easy to end up either feeling good or bad about yourself and then falling into the trap of self-attachment. And I think that really echoes wow. And the New Year's resolution, I had many New Year's resolutions. One including this book called Designing Your Life. It at the beginning mentioned these are Stanford professors trying to teach the same class to young college students, and their beginning class is I am here now, as a way of reminding the students to face and even in acceptance of the reality of where they are before they set the goal of where they want to be. But to channel a little bit of Albert Camus of the Sisyphus book, I feel like the fact that every day we still choose to be here, and as adults, ever since we became aware of death, in theory, we also had the choice of choosing death, in theory. But every moment when we choose to be here, we choose to be here for something. Maybe it's the learning, the journey. And that's once more renewing my own vow of I'm here to learn out of curiosity. So that's the reason why I set goals and look at others.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, for summarizing what I said and sharing your own personal experience. Yeah. Learning and growth and still being content with where we're at.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Chong. I really appreciated what you were saying, and it definitely resonated with me. I think something that's really hard, and I know I've mentioned these different factors in this group before, is growing up in a family that really valued being successful at your job. So if you were getting a promotion or if you were getting a raise, that was a way to, in my family, to sort of get attention from elders or gain respect in that way. So it's hard when you're in, for me, so it's hard for me growing up in that family structure, but also in a culture that really values capitalism, right? That if you're producing and so David, I was thinking about what you're talking about procrastination. I think that procrastination is also really cultural. So if you're in a culture that values doing, and you're, in conversation with a friend and you're like, I've been so busy lately, and that's seen as valuable, right? As opposed to like, oh, I just have all this free time and I'm doing things that make me happy. I think that there would be people who might look askance at that or just say like, or resent it, because of our own busyness. But then if we didn't have anything to do, we become like, at least for me, I know, like paralyzed with all this downtime. So it's, I think it's hard, to find that moment where you can say to yourself, it's hard for me to find the moment to say to myself, and also like in middle age as well. It's like I realize, oh, I'll probably never be able to do that other thing I thought maybe I could do with my life. Like probably I'm never going to be a doctor. Okay. And I think like there's a little bit of saying goodbye to something like that and just saying like, okay, well, that path of learning is likely not going to happen. And that's okay, right? I don't have to get to the highest degree of what I'm trying to do. And it doesn't mean that I'm living a life that's poor or a life that's of less value than someone who maybe does take that path and I'm in education, so lots of people have a higher salary than me, and that's okay. That's really okay. So I don't know about like a good life. I think a good life is familial, it's cultural. Um, and I think with all those pressures, it can be hard, especially for women too. There's a whole other series of pressures, I think that come into play about how perfect am I and who am I looking at and who are my role models and am I like this one and do I look like that? I just know speaking from an I perspective, like being a woman, there's also been that too. So it's hard to find that moment where you can just sort of reflect and say, actually, this is good. This is really good. And try to shut out all of those other things that are saying, no, but you should take another step and another and another and another. And I think in some moments saying no to that, which is why for New Year's resolutions for me are kind of like, I don't know, people, new year, same me, and to not feel bad that I don't have, all these resolutions um, to become better, but to also have these moments where I'm actually pretty good right now. It's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. All of the cultural pressures of all these ideas of what we're told is a good life, driving us to seek for this happiness and success somewhere else. Yeah, it can be hard to not be driven by that because it's in us, We've absorbed all that. When you said you take a moment just to realize this is good, this is really all good. Um, it just reminds me of a calligraphy that Master Ji wrote, and it's just Chinese is 日日皆好日. Every day is a good day, which I think is also based on the older Chan poem. I can't remember the whole thing, but briefly, it's saying that every season has its own quality. Winter has snow or cold, and spring has this and that. But as long as our minds are free from this burden of discrimination, every day is a good day. Every season is a good season. Does anybody remember that Chinese phrase? Yeah, could someone say it?
春有百花，秋有月，夏有凉风，冬有雪。若无闲事挂心头，便是人间好时节。
Perfect. I won't try to attempt to translate right now, right? But it's spring has flowers, fall has the moon, and winter has snow and all of that. As long as your mind is free from all these attachments and distractions, every day is a good day.
I just want to share my personal experience. So I'm pretty busy for my life. I feel like I'm mid-age too. So a couple months ago, I also have this dream. I need to go into the hospice, Omega Hospital, to become volunteer. I feel that kind of job is more meaningful than the job I'm doing as an accountant, because I feel like the accountant just calculate money, doesn't really provide benefit to the sentient being. So I have this dream keep bothering me, but a couple weeks ago, it's done on me. We have this practitioner. She's 88 years old. She loved talking to me, but at the beginning, I feel she's kind of annoying because I just feel, I don't know, I just feel like I'm busy every time I got set out these quarters. Why she continue talking to me? But one day, down on me, the truth, I don't need to go to the hospice or hospital to help people. I have these perfect people here for me to talk to her. I don't need to have all this skill to learn how to kind of like comfort people. They will have these people want me to talk to her. I should just be patient. When she wants to talk to me, I should talk to her. She wants to text me, ask me a question, I should be very patient to respond her text. So I think kind of somehow just changing my mind about this fulfillment, about this life. I always looking for something to help people, but I feel like opportunity is there. So I kind of can see that right now. So I feel like I'm more at ease right now. I don't need a new resolution to go have this big goal to help other people at hospitals. Now I can just do like you say before, kind of like the behavior I have right now. I can show in kind of impact the people around me. I don't need to go have this huge goal. I just want to share.
I'm also a sentient being. You help me too. So it's not just the 8-year-old. I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's very sweet. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, you're realizing that you're helping sentient beings in the career that you've chosen. You know, that's all the opportunities are there. That's awesome. Real life example.
Yeah, it was great. I was gonna follow up. David just said that every day is a good day. Then one that happens to me is that I feel like I have to live in the, I have to be very in the moment to recognize that.
Yeah, I think I heard most of that. Most of your message was which maybe we could summarize by saying that it's hard not to be judgmental. It's hard not to see things and say, well, this is not good enough. Well, this food isn't good enough. It could be better. Well, this world really isn't good enough. Uh, we're going down. You know, it's hard not to be judgmental towards everything, but it is a practice, you know, and the methods of practice help us to see our judgment and to be able to let it go, yet at the same time to make evaluations when it's useful and to try to improve, you know, try to um, help all beings live together more harmoniously. It's really a ongoing communal practice.
Yes, David, I just kind of had a question maybe. I just thinking about the good life, and um I'm in a place where I feel like for me to have a good life, I just have to be present. Like that's like a little marker that I use, and I have realized that I have to be present for my emotions. You know, I was for a lot of the time that I was practicing, I was kind of cutting off my emotions, and maybe last 2 years having being more present to it, even like things that were hard. But recently, you know, it's like a kind of parts of my life just fell apart, like relationship wise, and I'm just a. It's very difficult to let these emotions through because it kind of takes over. Like if I have to cook, take care of kids, it just becomes a kind of overwhelming. And I am also aware that I'm kind of averse to it. Like so the emotion comes and I'm like a very quick to cut it off. Like not right now. Like I can't right now, you know? And I'm just wondering if it's going somewhere that I'm gonna pay the price. Like it's somewhere it's getting stored and then, you know, heart attack or something, you know, or or is it the way? Am I like, is it the dharma? You know, like is it the law? Like am I breaking something? You know, um, just wondering, is it a even if I do have awareness that I'm kind of averse to certain kind of emotions, like oh shit, you know, um, how do you kind of just wanted your feedback on how you deal with it?
Yeah, that's really practical. So how to deal with the habit of cutting off emotion or trying to shut down ourselves to emotion. Well, it is a practice and the methods help us to be present to emotion, you know, and that's what sitting meditation or any form of stopping whatever we're doing just to be aware of what we feel is you know, is the first step. We have this intention just to be open and present to whatever feelings, whatever emotions. Um, just to clarify, when you say emotions, this is, you know, like the anger or the sadness, right? This is all connected not to just feeling, but it's a cluster of feeling and thought. This thought that comes along, or that actually the attachment to the thought generates the emotion. So usually when we try to cut off emotion, we're trying to cut off the thought as well, right? So it's important that when we practice our method, that we're allowing the feelings to arise and allowing the thoughts through, which, in some cases it may seem strange because we use a method to replace other thoughts. We use a method to replace the thoughts of, what we think about our life or the memories, and getting lost in thought. We use one thought to replace those thoughts, right? And in some way, those methods seem like shutting down thought or closing ourselves off from thought. But actually, it doesn't have to be that way. Even though we're using a method that is, for example, a Buddha name is a thought. Counting our breath is a thought or a line of thought. Even silent illumination, the intention to be aware of sitting, that's a thought. So we still use the method. We still hold to the thought, which is the method. But it's not our intention to shut down the other thoughts. It's actually the purpose of using the method helps us to be more clearly aware of our whole condition, including whatever thought arises. So if the method is very clear, whatever other thought arises, we're also clear of it. And because we're clear of it, we're allowing it to arise and pass. We're not involved in suppression. We just see it as a thought, as a passing thought, and it passes. And the emotion or the pattern of holding it or suppressing it also is released. And this, in some traditions, thoughts are seen as the enemy. Some meditative traditions, just getting into concentration to avoid any kind of thought. That's some meditative traditions' approach to thought and emotion. It's like oppositional, and it's actually very aggressive. Buddhist practice is where we use a method to develop concentration, but along the whole process, we don't have a oppositional attitude towards anything. The method is just helping us clarify everything. And the methods change. Eventually we may have a method where we don't need to generate a thought, but we have enough clarity and stability that we just let everything arise as it arises, without any opposition, without any distraction. And those things that we were suppressing may also arise when we're very calm. And some people think they're meditating the wrong way if they were very calm, but then all of a sudden this flood of emotion and thought and feeling arises. But it's not that we're practicing the wrong way, but it's often that when we are calm and stable and there's space in our mind and the habit of suppression is released, things can just arise, very deep things. But we just have that same attitude of letting it arise, being clear of it. And because we're clear about it, it's just a thought, it's just feelings, it's just this cluster of thought and feeling, then it arises and it passes, and we don't get lost in it. When we're clear, when we're stable, we don't get lost in it. And this is the healing that happens. And this is how I see the Buddhist approach to healing deeper pains and traumas. It's with great enough stability and clarity, whatever arises is seen as what it is. So the whole traumatic response to it is released. The fighting or the suppression or the blocking is released. And that's when healing occurs. So that's a really long way to just say, one, just to have the intention to be aware. Two, to use our method so that we have stability and clarity of whatever arises. That in itself helps us to let go of blocking thought or emotion blocking. So it's a great way to finish with a question that can help illustrate the method and the practice. And we'll catch up next time. Take care.